Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and the US dollar. If you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 100,000 subscribers. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we've been following the dollar for a long time on the channel, the depreciation of DXY over the last few months. And we've speculated on it bouncing around this level, not because of any say fundamental reason, but rather this is the level it bounced off in January and February and March and April of 2018. This is where the dollar said, you know what, I'm not going down without a fight. And so we speculated that maybe this will be the time when the dollar starts to make a stand again. And of course, it's done it before, right? We've seen it try to take stands back in June, back in August, and ultimately the trend continued down. So for instance, here we tried, the dollar tried, it went up about 2%, but ultimately trended down to new lows. From the bottom, let's not take it from the wick, but let's take it from right here. It went up around 3% or so, and then it ultimately trended lower. And so far, it's up around 1.4%. So we know that it could trend lower. And of course, as we've been saying for months and months and months, that yeah, the general narrative is, well, the money supply, as you can see here, M2, has increased significantly, right? We were on a path, and we have completely, detoured off of the path that we were previously on. We were not supposed to have this level of a money supply for a few more years. So, as we said, the narrative behind the US dollar is that, well, it theoretically should continue to lose value because of all the money printing. However, if you guys remember, we said, no, that's not always how markets work. Markets are efficient, and they price things in before they actually happen. So just because there's going to be money printing does not mean that the dollar has to go down. Now, over the macro scale, yeah, it could continue to go down. But with the idea that this is where it put up a stand in 2018, in the same manner, it could at least try to put up a stand today. And we can see that right here. And in a similar manner, we are seeing Bitcoin come back down a little bit. Obviously, it's too early to really know if this is a dead cat bounce or not. We've been talking about, whether it is a dead cat bounce, whether it's not. As we've said before, it's probably too early to definitively say at this point. Basically, the idea is, we came up to this new paradigm shift in the price of Bitcoin very quickly at around 42K. And then we had a massive sell-off down to around 30K. And then all this buying started happening again that propelled us back up to 40K. However, we did not quite make it to the prior top. So far, it has not quite made it there. So if it continues, if this type of move continues, and we ultimately come back down, then of course we'll remember this as a dead cat bounce. However, if ultimately speaking, Bitcoin just doesn't really care about that type of stuff. You look at it on, say, like a weekly time frame, or maybe a 12-day time frame, something like this. You might say, well, what correction? Okay, I mean, it obviously depends on the time frame in which you're viewing this information. So, on the daily time frame, though, so far we have put in a high of 42K. We came down to 30K. Came back up, but so far we have not been able to push through, and also we're not trending sideways so much quite yet. I mean, the price of Bitcoin is dropping now. It's on 36,000. If we go back and look, this is an hour time frame. It is dropping relatively quickly right here. In fact, over the last day, the last day, Bitcoin is down again. It's down about 10%. So, so far, especially if you look at this on a linear scale, and we look at it in terms of in terms of, you know, how far it's come in such a really short period of time. Let's switch to the daily time frame. When we look at it, we're simply just not sure yet. Now, hopefully, if you hold a lot of other cryptocurrencies, you're hoping that that Bitcoin can at least, even if ultimately it will trend back down, we're hoping that, you know, hey, at least can it hang out here for a few weeks, a few days, to give other coins the chance to move before it comes back down. So that's ultimately what we want to see. You know, if we are in fact ultimately coming back down to lower valuations, the longer that it can hang out here, the more likely we are to see other coins move. We've already seen a lot of coins move over the last few days. A lot of the coins that we follow on this channel. I mean, Link is at $19, DOT is at $13. Despite this downward movement by Bitcoin, ADA is still at 30 cents. Ethereum is still at 11.74. So these, you know, the altcoin market would like to move. However, they're constantly looking at Bitcoin. They're constantly looking at Bitcoin, and we need to see, you know, is this going to hold, or are we about to have a much larger correction than we had before? So ultimately, this is the name of the game here. Now, if we look at the dominance, if we go back and look at the Bitcoin dominance, one of the key areas we said to keep an eye out on is this level, because this is the level 68, about 68.5. This is the level where we've been holding support for the last couple weeks or so. This is the level we keep coming down to, and then the Bitcoin dominance goes back up. So from here, we're slightly below it now, but of course this could just turn out to end up being a wick. These are 4-hour candles, actually. They're not daily candles, these are 4-hour candles. So this could ultimately end up just simply being a wick below if it were to come back up in the short term. But what we want to consider is, if it were to come back down here quickly, then it could indicate that Bitcoin is stabilizing for a little bit and giving other coins the opportunity to run. However, if as we've said before, if we look at the dominance, and if we didn't know like what happened, like if all we could see was the dominance, and we saw it, you know, trend back up, then I would say, you know, there's two likely scenarios, of course. One would be a catastrophic short-term Bitcoin capitulation, would likely yield a increasing Bitcoin dominance, or Bitcoin stabilizes in this region for a little bit, and we get an altcoin season. And if we get an altcoin season, in that scenario, right, in the scenario of an altcoin season, we would come back down. Okay, so it would either, Bitcoin dominance will likely go up if there's a Bitcoin capitulation, or if Bitcoin all of a sudden says, oh no, we're just faking you guys out, we're in fact going to push past 42K later this week, then yeah, that'll probably increase the Bitcoin dominance as well. However, if it stabilizes here, which I don't know if it will, but if it does, then we could see the dominance rise. Now, one thing to consider, again, and it's okay, is a slow bleed is theoretically okay. You know, I mean, even though it's been bleeding, the dominance has been dropping. But it's, so far we haven't had like a catastrophic bleed where we're losing like 30% in a day. If we lose 30% in a day, then most altcoins are not going to hold up that strongly. They're just simply not. So it will ultimately depend on, you know, I mean, it will ultimately depend on what Bitcoin does over the next few days. What will it do? Will we remember this as a dead cat bounce that doesn't quite make it to the prior all-time high, and we ultimately trend much lower? And even in that scenario, as we said, other coins could stand to do okay, but if it's a catastrophic dump, then buckle up, because the entire market is likely going to come back down. So hopefully this video has been informative. Remember to keep an eye on DXY. As we said, if this keeps trending up, you know, week over week, day over day, then it's going to be hard for Bitcoin to maintain its short-term bullishness. It's simply going to be hard. And you can see that it is continuing to move up. Yes, there can be some days where it comes back down, but so far we've seen a move back up almost 2%. And these moves back over here from the bottom of this wick came up around 2 or 3% before ultimately trending much higher, and it was a fight over about 4 months, 3 or 4 months. So it could be a fight here. It might not just go straight back up. It could be a fight even if it were to eventually trend back up. Hopefully this video has been informative. Keep an eye on the Bitcoin dominance. Keep an eye on DXY, the Bitcoin dominance, and hopefully we can further watch what Bitcoin does in terms of its USD price and look to see, will the rest of the market get another push or not. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. We also have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Make sure you guys check that out if you want access to exclusive content and how I'm navigating these markets. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, turn on your alerts, and I'll see you next time. Bye.